I am going to be talking today about the winds of change, the way in which we are always invited to step into the unknown. And so what I want to invite you to do first before I jump into this is let's just take a holy breath together. Just take an inhale, collective, and just let it go. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, and just let it go. Just bringing all of our energy right here so that I can feel you, I can sense you, and bring you into this talk. We know that change is one of those things that is so constant in our lives. We have often found ourselves in transition, in unknowns, in the different seasons that life brings, new opportunities. I know for me, coming to Seattle was such a huge gift a year and a half ago. And one of the first words I ever learned when I moved my life over to Eastern Europe, I was in Ukraine for a while. One of the first Russian words I ever learned was the word gibki. And the word gibki means flexibility. And the reason our spiritual leader there had us learn this word, you can imagine, is because she knew immediately that we would be very attached to the flow and what was going to happen during our 10 days at this conference in Ukraine. And so gibki was the word that always reminded us to be flexible with the changes, the seasons. It meant that I had to dance with uncertainty and spontaneity. And for many of us, that dancing can be a very scary thing. And so I want to share today just a few things that I know that the unknown requires of us for us to remember. And the first thing is, it's a big one. I started with the big one, which is that we must commit to something fully. Commit to something fully. Why? Because there's no time to waste. We know that from last year, from all that we've been through with this pandemic, that there's absolutely zero time for us to waste in giving our gifts, in expressing who we are, in fulfilling our purpose, in moving towards a calling that we might have. You know, for years, in this entire Centers for Spiritual Living organization that I grew up in, I have had a vision in my mind of where I wanted my life to go. I had this story about what kind of life it would look like. You know, I had visioning boards like I'm sure many of you have all over the place, and they all over time started to build on each other. And I had this vision that I wanted to be in a spiritual community, but I wanted to have my own side business, retreat center. I want to be teaching and speaking all over the world. I want to do TV and radio. I want to do podcasting and coaching. And this has been on those visioning boards all along. I just didn't know, as we often don't know, the how it was going to come about, right? And so oftentimes what would happen is I would declare an intention, I would pretend like I had committed to something, and my confusion would step in the way. That self-sabotage would show up on my path. And my confusion was the thing that kept me from my commitment, because self-sabotage is a very real thing. And so I had a coach once say to me, I didn't know this, but he said, Savanna, your confusion is your lack of commitment. It is your lack of commitment to the thing that you say that you want. So when we commit to something fully, what happens? Everything unlike that shows up for us to heal, to learn from, to understand. And so even in the unknown, especially in the unknown, if we can commit to something like being fully present to ourselves, committing to our self-care, committing to a daily practice, committing to a dream or something you want to fulfill, then we stay aligned and out of our confusion and more open and receptive to our good. But more often than not, we resist our good. We depend on those old stories that we tell about ourselves, about our worthiness, about our deservedness, about our good. And then that sabotage comes in and we fight for our limitations, which I did for many years, resisting the urge or the call or the thing that's pulling us forward. And it's part of that human evolution, right? That we are becoming more conscious, which means that the more we commit fully, then the more the universe steps in to help us. My choice to move to Seattle a year and a half ago, I moved from the Bay Area, and to be in the spiritual community I'm in now was thankfully a choice and a commitment. It was not sabotage. There was no resistance. All of those old ways and those old things where I would find myself in a toxic relationship or a dysfunctional job or something that was distracting me from fully stepping in to committing to my purpose. Those things were not present. There was no resistance. And so what I did was I asked the universe that December before I took this job. I said, okay, universe, I do not want the spiritual 2x4. I want the neon sign. Okay. I want this is where you need to be. This is what you need to be doing. I said, give me a sign, and it's gotta be neon. So I kid you not, the weeks before I had accepted the job here, I was in the Bellevue W Hotel, and I turned the corner to get from the check-in to the elevators, and I looked up at the wall, and on the wall in a bright neon sign, it said, "You are in the right place." And I thought, okay, how many times do I have to be shown? How many times do I have to ask the question if it's actually possible to believe that we do, in fact, have dominion over our experiences, over our thoughts, over what happens, over what manifests, right? And so, yes, it was an affirmation, but it was also a yes. You're in the right place. You need to do this. It means, though, sometimes that we have to lean into the discomfort. You know, if we can lean into the unknown and to allow that to shape and inform us, then that great story, the great story arc, like the hero's journey that we hear often Joseph Campbell talk about, then that starts to come alive. That starts to reveal itself. You know, the unknown is just that creative void of infinite possibility. It's where those seeds start to be planted and where we get to really test our faith muscles. It's that thing where when we commit fully to something, it's like the universe is like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you really sure that's what you want? Because if it is, everything unlike it is going to show up for your healing so that you get to the thing that you want. Tom Althouse was quoted to have said, "Fear not the unknown, it is a sea of possibilities." So the unknown can absolutely be our friend and not our enemy, not our foe. It is the place where we get to trust what we deeply say that we believe. You know, I was on a podcast not too long ago, and the podcast was called Turning Points. And the premise of the entire podcast was, what was the turning point in your life where you realized that the God of your childhood or what you were taught about life had changed, that it wasn't actually what you believed? Where did your spiritual path begin? So I took them through the whole story, and I said, my path began at Mile High Church in Denver, Colorado. I was 16 years old. I thought that the sermon that the minister gave, was really weird, and I'd never heard of this teaching before. And I thought, what am I doing here? I don't belong. But there was an audition for a talent show, and I love to sing. So I auditioned for the talent show. They got me in. They said, we have a youth program. You really should go down to this youth program. Long story short, it ended up being a pivotal moment on my path into, you know, the evolution of working with youth in this organization in New Thought globally, and then moving into ministry, right? But one of the questions they asked me also after that was, how is it that you have cultivated this incredible amount of trust and courage in terms of your purpose and just doing the next thing? Like, how have you done all of this and not been stagnant or comfortable? And how are you so unafraid to leap into the unknown? And it was a really beautiful question I've never been asked before. It doesn't mean that I was never afraid. I was always afraid. But I always just knew that there was something within me that always knew that there was a greater purpose for my life. And I didn't always know what that was. I didn't always know that there was an invitation to a deeper calling. I just followed the next step and the next step, the next door, the next opportunity, the next resource that would show up to me to help me. And I never forgot that I had a purpose, and I leapt anyway. And so I face my fears anyway. So for you, it's the same. It's you have a purpose. No matter how old you are, we are always forever and ever growing and expanding. And so you get to ask yourself, what am I being deeply called to be about right now? If you're in the midst of an unknown time, what is the vision that is pulling my life? And then we get to trust it no matter what. And that is the hardest part. I find myself in this place right now of being in the unknown because literally a month ago, my spiritual center here said, Savanna, we don't have the funds to keep you. We cannot keep you next year. So here I am now, again, giving you this sermon about stepping into the unknown. And I too am in this place of, do I trust that there is a vision that is pulling me forward, that is calling me forth? Do I trust that I have a greater purpose? Absolutely, because there's so much more to be revealed. Something that Denise sang about that I always love when this happens is when the music intersects and weaves its way through the talk. And one of the lyrics of what she said is that the spirit is right where we are. And that's the other thing that we get to remember in the unknown. When we're faced with change and unknown, we get to come back to that center place and remember that the spirit is right where we are. It is the very, very essence of your being. It is at the center, as Ernest Holmes would say, the center and the circumference of your life. Spirit, God, intelligence is the sustaining principle of our lives. And so we are always setting into motion the laws of mind as we think. So there's nothing within me and nothing within you that can obstruct the divine pattern as it is unfolding. So I have to remind myself that, okay, there's nothing that can obstruct this divine pattern that is unfolding. It is already in motion, even with the twists and the turns and the setbacks and the struggles. Ernest Holmes said, the ceaseless human struggle for liberty, freedom, is an attempt to rise above limitations which the consciousness of man knows to be false. Every scientific discovery is proof that limitation is not ordained by the laws of your being. What that means to us is that we were not meant to be limited. We were meant to experience freedom and joy, especially when we're in an unknown space. Ernest Holmes, I'm not sure if all of you know who that is. So he's the founder of religious science, which is a cousin of unity. And he reminds us of the story in the Bible of the prodigal son. And this is how he talks about it. He says, when the prodigal son was off in a far off country, destitute, nothing was really happening with the divine abundance in his life. The father's house had not been dismantled. The celestial garden, as it's talked about in the Bible, still produced the fruit of the vine. But the son's face was turned. His eyes were closed. His ears were stopped. His consciousness was numb. Why? Because he had to come to himself. He had to come back to himself. And in coming back to himself, he met face to face the heavenly presence which pervades all life. He was enfolded in the arms of love. A banquet was spread before him in his wilderness. And you might ask the question, well, where was God all this time? Well, God had not been anywhere. The divine is everywhere. The divine is always present, and it appears where recognized. And so this is a reminder to us that the presence, not only is it where we are, but it's never an absence. The presence is never an absence because the light is who we are, so we can sense and feel this presence when we pray, when we sit still, when we're in meditation, when I take the time to commune with my spirit. The third thing that I invite us to remember about being in the unknown is, and this is one of my favorites because there's creativity in the unknown, there's creativity in the void, is that we get to ask the question, what is the story that I want to inhabit right now? What is the new story that is wanting to be inhabited by you? Facing the unknown is far more rich when we can find the vision for the story that we want to inhabit, because that's the purpose of our lives. It's about finding that story that we can be part of, that we are the character in, that we are inhabiting, and then we allow the story to come alive in our life. We become part of what's known as a feedback loop of a great story arc, like Joseph Campbell, in the great story arc, The Hero's Journey. And in the hero's journey, it always starts with the call. So there is something that has called you to where you are right now, to the Zoom, to this service, to wherever you are in your life at this moment. And that calling oftentimes does not let us let go of it. It doesn't let us forget it. It's like it's always that little still small voice, What I've been realizing is that we are as humans very resilient beings. I have often learned the most in my life in the darkness, in times where I couldn't see. It's like the miner who has the headlamp, who can only see what's right there from the light of the headlamp. He can't see what's beyond it, because sometimes we're not supposed to see what's beyond it, right? Sometimes you have to get right to the top of the hill to know that you made it, so that you can see that there's something next. And so right now in my own life, I'm at the top of the hill. I've made it this far. I'm like, okay, I'm at the top of the hill. What is the thing that's calling me forward? What is next? Can I commit to a greater story for my life? Can I see that everything that's happening right now is happening for my good? The last thing I want you to know, the fourth thing, is that the path of courage is sometimes a really quiet one. Courage lives at the heart of our journey into the unknown. We can't escape it. When we commit to our soul's growth, as I said before, all the stuff we need to know that we haven't examined, it all comes into our awareness. It allows us to ask ourselves if we've really become the vibrational match to the thing we say that we want. My courage continues to pull me forward towards a greater purpose. My courage is part of my fuel, and it can be part of your fuel as well. And so Pema Chodron reminds us, I love her work. She says, the next time you encounter fear, consider yourself lucky. This is where the courage comes in. Usually we think that brave people have no fear. The truth is that they are intimate with fear. When I was first married, my husband said I was one of the bravest people he knew. When I asked him why, he said because I was a complete coward, but went ahead and did things anyhow. So I'm reminded then to be, to be aware that when I'm afraid, I sometimes want to self-abandon. I sometimes want to run away. I seek comfort and solace in the world of effect out there. And we're reminded to connect to that still inner place of the Most High. That is where we find our courage and our center. The universe is always answering every question that we have. It's always answering us, but sometimes we're not asking the right questions. We're asking disempowering questions. We want to start asking questions like, what is the meaning of my life? What is trying to emerge in my life? What is the vision for my life? What can I bring to life? And the one I said before is, what am I being asked to commit to? What is something greater that I can commit to? And don't worry, you don't have to remember all these questions. You can just go back to the replay of this talk and go back and write them all down, I promise. So, what am I becoming? The unknown is a place where we are becoming. And sometimes the journey can be lonely. And so we get to make friends with our loneliness. Sometimes the path of courage is a quiet one, traveling in its own, subtle ways along the corridors of this inner world, this little inner brain here we have. The irony, or maybe no irony, is that the unknown stuff is what I'm dealing with as well, as I just said, and it's forcing me to up level. It's forcing me to play in a bigger pond, to up level my business and my message, to commit to being something more. So the winds of change, stepping into the unknown, it reminds us of these four things: committing to something fully, knowing that there's absolutely no time to waste in giving your gift. It's knowing and remembering that God is right where we are, that the Spirit is right where we are. It's asking yourself, what is the story that I want to inhabit? What is the thing that brings me most alive? And the fourth thing is, the path of courage is sometimes a quiet one. So I want to close with this quote, and then I'll take us into a closing prayer. Wallace Stevens says, "It is the unknown that excites the ardor of scholars who in the known alone would shrivel up with boredom." So let us just go into a prayer right now, just taking that holy breath. Just giving so much gratitude and thanks for the power and the presence of life that is right here, right now, in this very space and time. That has been the message that has been said, it has been the music, it has been the energy and the vibration and the uniqueness of every single person who has gathered here today. And so what I'm knowing and declaring and affirming for each and every one of us is that we are answering a call, that there is something that was planted into our lives, into our consciousness, into our dream state that was already there prior to this invitation today, that has been nudging, it has been pulling us along, it has been asking us of our attention to step fully into the unknown, to step fully into what it is that our life wants to be about. And so we listen to it, we turn to it, we lean into it, knowing that God's got us. The Spirit itself is forever and ever expanding and present. It is right where we are. And so we just get out of the way, and we get out of the fighting, we get out of the struggle and the limitation and the fear and the scarcity, and we turn our attention to that which we seek, which is divine right action, trust, clarity, faith, opportunity, opulence, perfect health, perfect relationship, and so much goodness. And so for this and the more I give thanks for this spiritual community that has come together in such a powerful way at this most perfect time to do the amazing work they're doing in the world. Why? Because that is what we are being asked to do. And so I give thanks for that, and I release my word into love itself. I know that all is truly well, and so we let it be. And together we say Ashe, Namaste, and so it is. Amen.
I am made of the light that hung the stars in the night, a perfect thought since time began. I am one with the love that's holding all of us. It's power in my hands. I am called by the voice that speaks of truth and joy, forever blessed where I stand. I am. I am. I am made of the light that hung the stars in the night, a perfect thought since time began. I am. I am. I am one with the love that's holding all of us. Its power in my hands. Let's affirm these words together. I am. I am. I am called by the voice that speaks of truth and joy, forever blessed where I stand. I am. I am. I am. I am. I am. I am.
Hello, everyone. It's a joy to be with you. Welcome to your meditative practice. If you could take a moment where you are at this moment, let us just close our eyes. We're going to take a pause, turning away from the world of effect, back to yourself. And just take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Just letting go, releasing all that does not serve. Just bringing our full attention to this moment and to your breath. Letting go of any anxiety or stress, any worry or tension. Just take a breath fully into your heart and allow yourself to just relax. Letting go of the day or any mental confusion, any sense of to-do lists or self-judgment. Just allow yourself to surrender to the power of this moment, to your breath. Releasing the need to figure anything out, any solution or the how. Just say softly to yourself, I am fully funded by the universe. I am fully funded by the universe. And just take that in for a moment. Everything that I need to know to become more aligned with who and what I am and all that I desire is already presenting itself right here and now. And so I release any worry or stress about how things are going to unfold. And I trust the divine right action of pure life and spirit. And I know that I am so well taken care of. And so we just breathe in for a few moments and let ourselves sit in the presence and the silence, dropping your shoulders, dropping your jaw, relaxing your eyelids, breathing deep into your belly and out. And as you sit in this meditative place, just imagine that you are fully supported by the universe. You are held, you are loved. It is giving you a huge hug. All is truly well. And so we'll sit for a few moments and then I will bring you right out. And now just taking a deep breath, just saying softly to yourself, I trust the divine plan for my life. I trust the divine plan for my life. And all is truly well. And so we take it in, we come back to this center, we come back to this energy in the space of this Zoom room. You can open your eyes and let us just all together say, and so it is. Amen.
Love in the words I say, peace in the world I make, God in every breath I take, joy in my day, joy in my day. Let this song be our anthem. Love in the words I say. Love in the words I say. Peace in the world I make. Peace in the world I make. God in every breath I take. God in every breath I take. Joy in my day. Joy in my day. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. We are lifted up higher. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. lift each other up. We lift up our neighbors and the world around us, and we know joy in our day, every day. Bless you guys. See you soon.